So hey guys, today we're going to be talking about deck building, and today we're going to be talking about how some things with deck building and just like deck building theory are going to just change, and people might not have realized it already fully, unless maybe you're a deck builder, who knows. But all right, if we go to something like, let's say, a Vanquish Soul, right? Vanquish Soul has, for the most part, like Pantera would not be considered a normal summon, I guess. So if we were to run our maxed out copies of cards here, aside from Pantera, well, it doesn't matter the rest of the cards, but if we max out on the cards that we would normal summon, the amount should be somewhere like 6, 5, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, your main starter normal summon monster or whatever, you should have about 6 of them, and that is like, well, was, I guess, to an extent mathematically, I guess, optimal. But then if we look at something like, let's say we'll go to just Punk right now, okay? Then technically you could run 3 copies of Xiamen, 3 copies of Sharakusai, and then you have your copies of like Wagon, Madame Spider, which are technically all normal summons, but your devoted normal summons would likely be to one of these 2 monsters, and then you would have the rest of your cards. So now, the issue with theory work, I guess, is that now we have to account for as well, like starter extenders that are kind of also like necessary engine pieces, I guess, to an extent. So Ogre Dance now would technically also be a normal summon, which is freaky. So now you would have Ogre Dance to add one of your normal summons. And as of right now, Ogre Dance only really adds level 3 monsters. Like, you can technically add Deer Note as well, but that's only really good if you're playing 2 Deer Note, in my opinion. So there's that, I guess. And then following Ogre Dance, I guess you have like Ogre Dance, normal summon Xiamen to add Foxy Tune or to add Rising Scale, both of which require you to normal summon Xiamen off of activate Ogre Dance. But then beyond this would be running all of this engine and then calculating out how much engine do I actually need to play. Because technically, for the most part, all of these are somewhat starters. This is a combo. If I normal summon this with any punt card in my hand, that is just genuinely combo. And then if I have like Foxy Tune or Emergency Teleport, that is technically a starter and combo that does not require your normal summon. So we're going to real quick put in every single card that I think could be combo, right? So we're just only going to do this. We're not going to throw in any like engine requirements necessarily. So we'll cut Madam Spider temporarily. So emergency teleport. If we resolve this, that's also combo. So we'll cut down on the deer notes, I guess, temporarily because they're not part of the combo. Wagon, that's not really combo either. So right now we have essentially in our deck 16 kind of more or so starters, but we could do more. So next, let's throw in Ascator, which does lock you into synchro, but that's fine. So special summon this card, then special summon from your hand or deck, and Ascator, the Fire Ant or whatever, Fire Ant Ascator. So now we're at 20. And then from here, well, yeah, just to explain why this is combo, you would synchro summon Jam Dragon Drive, and then we can make a different synchro way. Doesn't matter. We could even make a second Jam Dragon Drive, I guess. Well, actually, this requires a Psychic Tuner, so maybe this isn't a starter. Actually, Insect Tuner, Spellcastor. Yeah, okay. little bit hard here, but okay. Is there a psychic tuner? Oh wait, yeah, there is. That would be the assault stuff, right? Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure that guy's a psychic because you e-telly him out. So it's this plus Psi Reflector. And this needs to add an assault mode, activate or one card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. It's assault spirits. That's assault mode activate. So you can discard this card, add one assault mode activate from your deck to your hand. Then this has the effect to do what? Reveal one assault mode activate in your hand and target one monster in your graveyard that mentions it. Yeah. Then you change Psi Reflector to level 4, and then we can synchro summon, I guess. And then we can grab one of these guys. Can we summon them afterwards? Only if we special summon Psi Reflector, which we can do off of also 1-for-1, which I have over here somewhere. Boom. So let's see. If we normal summon this, is there a way to get into combo from here? Yeah, I don't think so. But whatever. The basic idea is still here. So we could just keep on throwing in engine that would technically be combo, right? But at what point do we have too much engine? Because just opening one copy, I guess, of Psi Reflector, one copy of Xiamen might not necessarily be combo, right? Because Ash Blossom fully stops this combo, so we'll go, let's say, normal summon Xiamen, activate Xiamen effect. It could be Ash Blossom, Imperms, Effect Veiled. We could get hit by Dominus Impulse. But we could get hit by a lot of things. And then if we get hand trapped on the Xiamen, right? Then here's the question. What are the odds we would draw into another extender with a deck list like this? I mean, since half of our deck is just like starter / extender type stuff, then there's about, I don't know, let's say potentially a good chance that we have 1 or 2 pieces of engine. And then for non-engine, if the rest of the deck were non-engine, we could like manage to, I guess, have plays for going second as well as going first. But how much non-engine do we need? How much non-engine is our opponent playing? How many hand traps can we tank? How many hand traps? How do they interact with our deck exactly? So, for example, if I were playing like Sprite instead, which has a really large amount of like starters and extenders as well. If we were to, let's say, normal summon a monster, that monster activates to do something, that gets negated or affected by some sort of hand trap. We special summon Sprite Blue, activate this effect. If this gets hand trapped as well, we can then go into Gigantic Sprite. And then try combo from there. And in this case, we're trading 2 cards for 2 cards, right? But then we get into even muddier territory when we're playing something like Malice, and this is where the problem really starts, right? So here, we could still probably manage something, but now it becomes like really weird. So let's start with Dormouse, right? If we were to have just a Dormouse, there isn't a point where your opponent would be able to Ash you. So let's assume we have just a deck that's insanely hand trap resistant. How much engine do I actually need now? So maybe to play through like someone dropping Ash Blossom, Imperm, Veiler on me all in the same turn, I would need like to use 3 engine pieces from hand to do so in like an older deck. But in a newer deck, well, that deck might not even exist yet, because there could be potentially a deck that plays even harder through hand traps than Malice in future. But basic idea here is like, if I have Dormouse plus March Hare, and I can play through. I'll just throw out a random number here, like 4 hand traps off of just opening these cards in hand, or I only need 1 engine piece to play through 3 or 4 disruptions. Should I not be, to an extent, abusing that and cutting down on my engine and playing more non-engine, but still retaining a respectable amount of engine so that I can draw into the pieces when I inevitably do need them to like actually combo and I guess lower my opponent's life points per game? So I feel like that's just something really important to consider. And also worth mentioning, of course, is that Malice has a ridiculous amount of starters just in general. So let's grab this real quick. If we go ahead and take a quick look, we have 3-door mouse, 3 mouse in underground, and then you also have 3 copies of White Rabbit, and these are just starters that can also potentially extend sometimes. Like this is not going to be an extender if you normal summon the Dormouse. But yeah, we have this, then we have Gold Sark, and then following Gold Sark, we have Signet Mining. And then mining can, of course, add us White Rabbit. And not just White Rabbit, can add March Hare potentially. Like we could use this to grab a starter. We could use this to grab an extender. Pretty gross. And here that's like 14 cards, where they're all starters and extenders. With a lot of these being very able to play through a multitude of hand traps. So with I guess like Malice in Underground, this would be able to play through Ash Blossom, Imperm, Veiler. There are different ways to kind of deal with each. So like, let's say we want to play through Ash, we will go Malice in the Underground, and we can banish the Dormouse here. And if we activate Dormouse, there's nothing you can really Ash here. Special summon White Rabbit effect to set a trap, and you still don't really have a point where you can interact because we can set, let's see, set 06 here, and this doesn't add a card either, so yeah. And then following this, we also have a way to play around, I guess, let's see, not Imperm as a 1 card with this, but any 2 card can more or less completely ignore infinite impermanence. So yeah, that doesn't feel great, I'd say. So for example, if we have White Rabbit plus Malice and Underground, we need Malice and Underground to add March Hare. Normal summon White Rabbit, no effect, link off White Rabbit for Lingribo, and then Malice in the Underground, banish White Rabbit, special summon White Rabbit, then trigger White Rabbit. So yeah, that would play, I guess, around an infinite impermanence and potentially a Dominus Impulse. Actually, no, it definitely plays around Dominus Impulse because the first time you special summon Lingribo is that on the field, because that's the first thing you would special summon. So yeah, kind of gnarly. But yeah, technically, there are probably more starters that you can run that get you into the Malice cards, essentially. So basic idea here now is like, well, it's not that apparent with just Malice right now. If all of your cards are like on the level of Mathematic Circular, that should actually change how your ratios should be adjusted and how you should build your deck. But it hasn't quite happened yet, and this also depends on if hand traps get stronger as well. Because if they don't trade well enough, it will get to the point where we're just playing more hand traps and we're getting oppressed by stronger decks that way. When we're playing like older decks with no support, like let's say Vanquish Soul, I activate, maybe we have a really good hand, we activate Stake Your Soul, and then we normal summon Rosin, and we just get cooked by 1 to 2 hand traps. So, yeah. But I don't know, maybe let's say we have a Dominus Impulse that special summons the equivalent of a Drill Swarm. Or it special summons a monster that can negate another monster on field after negating a summon or something. That sounds kind of wild, but you know, that'd be like the reverse of what's going on right now, I guess. And you'd be getting oppressed by like hand traps. But there's also just getting hit by a multitude of hand traps as well. Like you get hit by an Ash, then you get hit by an Imperm, and then you get hit by like, I don't know, uh I guess aside from your Gama after this, and then your opponent will draw a card for turn, and then they'll have just beyond combo because their deck can't be hand trapped as easily. And then there's also like the engine requirements to just play your deck to begin with. So that determines to an extent how many hand traps you can play with, and that's before considering if the hand trap is compatible with your deck or not, like with Dominus Impulse or Dominus Purge, which are both, I believe, incompatible with Vanquished Soul, for example, or like Altergeist, which has like basically every attribute. So yeah, ratios and stuff will be getting weird. And then there's also the idea of putting out certain non-engine cards. So like with Centurion, for example, you're actually able to play a build that allows you to cut out Ash Blossom Joe Spring and also Called by the Grave, because you mostly run those cards. Like you would probably still run Called by, but for Ash Blossom Joe Spring, you could cut this because you have a line where you can just basically make Legacia on the next turn and just pass on, essentially just that. So that aspect of deck building, I don't think anyone's really doing because people really enjoy comboing, I guess. So in that case, I guess it would be better if you want a full combo to have the Ash Blossom to stop the Maxi and then just do your full combo regardless, even if you have a minimal play that's decent. You don't always want to necessarily be doing that minimal play, despite maybe it being enough to win, depending on what you're playing against, I guess. So, yeah, deck building is getting a little bit more complicated eventually, I feel. I can't necessarily predict all of the aspects that will change in the future about like this game, the card design, the cards they add, or the support they release, but yeah, we're already seeing to an extent like just cards, like not just Malice, but like just cards in general being a lot more hand trap resistant. There are some decks that are just essentially immune to a hand trap, or they have a way to play around certain hand traps really well. Like with the example of Unchained being able to deal with infinite impermanence and effect valor really well, and also Droll is not super effective against that deck either. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.